how can you recognize when you're experiencing occupational burnout? Like, what are the signs? How can you recognize it in yourself or maybe a colleague or a peer? And then I'm afterwards, I want to know like what we can do about it. How can we start working to better ourselves and ultimately improve?
Well, that and first recognizing it yourself, that's a really difficult proposition. And then when it's pointed out to you, not denying, going into not denial, that is another issue. And I wanted to bring that up. But if you think about what do we look for in ourselves? Feeling exhausted, depleted energy, feeling just not interested in work anymore. Like, gosh, you mean I have to go to work today instead of getting up and feeling excited about going to our job?
Not even interested in like your hobbies or things outside of work that used to bring you pleasure. Sorry to interrupt, Cynthia.
Oh, no. This is what we do. Converse.
There's no such thing as interrupting, okay? We're all talking over each other.
Good. We've established that. Like reduced productivity. Sitting down and saying, I don't really want to do this. Not missing deadlines. Health-wise, then if you look at, I'll tell you, when I moved to DC when I was 21, and I had finished college and moved to DC to get a job. I was by myself. I was going to go to law school the following year. For 6 months, my stomach hurt. I had horrible, horrible pains. I was having headaches. Well, little did I know that the sleeplessness and all of that it was really burnout. And, combined with some other factors. Now, the doctor that I went to told me to get a dog. That is not quite, okay. While that may be helpful, it didn't really, it wasn't feasible, and it didn't necessarily help with with the stress.
But you did get a dog?
Not until much later, and I do have a dog now. And I can assure you that dog does help me stay in the present moment.
Me too. Okay.
So Becky, you and I were discussing earlier about then if the burnout goes untreated. So of course we want to see burnout treated, but if it goes untreated, just the other kinds of conditions that it can lead to.
Yeah, it's just so interrelated with, these, now we have attorneys obviously kind of always have, I think, chronic stress, but now we've got the chronic stress of the pandemic, right? And then, just dealing with stress caused mental illness, but then also some of us have, like myself, have like recurrent depression, right? This is something that we're just gonna potentially deal with our whole life. And, that's exacerbated by this. And then, to the point, that you had said before, Nick, about just not having the coping skills, things we're not trained in law school about. So people not having the coping skills to then effectively manage this in the moment. And then that's why they're turning to substances. That's why we're turning to alcohol, like binge eating, all of these things, like social media addiction. Like it's something we can seemingly control. It's a distraction. And so that's exactly, what we try to do with the Legal Burnout Solution is like, hey, like, let's focus on some healthy coping skills. And it doesn't have to be, big things. We get that attorneys are very, very busy. Yeah, we're very busy people as well. And so that's why we try to make, the practices that we focus on really like bite-sized and manageable, so you can just integrate it, into your day, into your schedule, just small things, and then also just exposing people to practices so they can find something that resonates with them, because it really is like, different strokes for different folks. Like I always, I'm a certified meditation instructor, and I always have to combat this idea of like, but it is to meditate. And I have this idea in my mind of like the monk sitting in perfect silence and stillness, like not moving and doing silent meditation for like 20 minutes. And yes, like, you know, that's a form of meditation. That's great. But for someone like myself who, you know, like has trauma in their history, like sitting, not moving for that prolonged period of time, it can actually be kind of counterproductive. And so we just really try to, you know, give people these practices, and that it's ultimately, you know, the formal practice supports the informal practice, which we always say is, you know, you come here, you come to the mat, as it were, this training, this routine, and that's going to support your ability to then be mindful the rest of the time. And I'm sure Cynthia has a lot more to add about, you know, what can we do to combat burnout specifically.
You know, as you're absolutely right. But I do want to have one more. I do have one more thing to add about detecting burnout. Is there's actually a test that you can take. There's an assessment, and it's called the MASLAC, MASLACH Burnout Inventory. Now we are in the process of putting a lot of these assessments on our website, so do check back from time to time, because there's so many great assessments out there. And I was interested to find that that really MASLAC had created this concept many, many years ago. When I first met Becky, she's the one who told me about then the World Health Organization in 2019 officially recognized occupational burnout as a real syndrome. And so it's not just, it is something that you can measure. You know, in terms of what else that you can do, I say the first thing, phone a friend, and you know, sit there and have a conversation. It's really a difficult call to make, and so it could either be a friend, or if you just don't want to talk to somebody that you know, there are so many confidential resources out there. I know Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers. It's a national nonprofit, but there's one in each state, and they do a really, really nice job there. Again, it is confidential, and you know, if you're worried about reaching out to people, don't you think that they know there's something wrong? When I went to rehab, I checked myself in. I drove myself there, and on the way there, I called like 25 people to tell them, you know, I'm disappearing for 31 days. And people, frankly, were surprised. And then my first day, within the first few days in rehab, I got 11 letters. And the other women there were saying, how did you get so much mail? And we don't get any. And I said, well, did you tell anybody that you're here? And they're like, no. And I realized that they didn't, because of our culture of shame. And I think that if you could rise above that in yourself and make a call, that even to somebody that you look up to, that you would be very surprised that most people have some sort of story of their own, a story of challenge, or they have somebody else in their life who has been challenged. They've got issues. Professional help. We're all, certainly we love being a resource, one of the resources that people use. We're both all about therapy. I'm not currently in therapy, which doesn't mean that I won't be again. I've been in therapy for so many years in the past that, you know, I've accumulated a bunch of tools. And so we're all over that. And also, most importantly, start taking care of yourself. right now, today, because you are the most important relationship in your entire life.